Ooh, look at them bags. I don't know what retouch is. What is this? Oh, create a highlight. That's kind of cool. Can I share this? What is this? Chat filter. Start a poll. Cool. Hi, whoever just popped in. Oh, I can't share this out. That's pretty interesting. Can I share this elsewhere? Let's see, share. Hi, whoever is here. I see that there's people here. I just don't know who you are. Ooh, I saw someone. Hang on. I gotta do something real quick. Sorry. Hang on. Jermaine. Yes. Hello, Jermaine. Good to see you. Yeah, it has been a while. I'm not gonna lie. It has been quite some time. How have you been? It has been. It's been. Yeah, it's been. I don't know. I don't want to call it nuts. It has not been nuts, but it has been a while. I'm still around. I'm still doing podcast stuff. I mean, I still do podcast stuff. There's my microphone, and I got some gear too. So I wanted to come on to YouTube because I wanted to test out. I wanted to test out the feature on YouTube vertical video, just to kind of get an idea of what it's all about. And so, yeah, that's really all it is, right? So, yeah, how have you been? What's new? Are you? Tell me about you. I mean, I don't know if I know you. I don't think I mean, you're probably a subscriber to the channel, correct? But tell me about you. What's the story? Give me the good dirt. Let's see here. How do I? I'm just learning this vertical video thing, quite honestly. So you're just gonna have to kind of bear with me a little bit because I'm trying to learn how to share it to specific areas of the web, but I'll kind of give you an idea. Maybe I'll give you a little preview of what I'm trying to do. Maybe I need to do it here. Did I go away? Let me see. I gotta make sure. I'm gonna log into a different account here to kind of see what's going on. I consumed your content and never started a podcast until this year. Awesome! That's awesome. What's your podcast all about? What did you do? Yeah, I made a bunch of content, and still I think it's still pretty relevant. I know that people still check the channel out. It is not as active, so I get it. Yeah, it's not as active, but I have plans for that. I'm currently viewing on my computer just to kind of get an idea of what's going on here. I'm gonna share this out. Let's see here, if I can share it out. I don't know. I'm just trying to find some cool things, cool different ways to do things here. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Let's see here. I'm gonna make a post real quick, and if you're typing, I'm cool with that. Okay, we'll do that. We'll see if it works. I don't know. There we go. Jermaine, it's called Drowsy Podcast. I read bedtime stories for my 10-year-old niece. Anyone else and anyone else that listens. Oh, that's cool. Can I listen? I won't listen if you don't want me to, but I'll listen if you want me to. We can kind of check it out and see what we got. Let's see if I can do this. Can I do this? So there's like, there's not too many. I don't know how to. I'm gonna like this video. So like this video so that I guess it can show up into the feed, I guess. Because I think that would be kind of cool. I'm gonna mute this and then I'm gonna turn this on. Let's see. Cool. I'm gonna mute. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're gonna mute that. I'll look it up. I'll look up the Drowsy podcast, and but I won't listen to it unless you ask me if you want me to listen to it. We can listen to it. I'm gonna have to pause my music if I do that. I don't know if you can hear the music in the background. Sure, it's a work in progress. Okay, I'm assuming it's on all platforms, right? It's on all platforms. Let's see here. We're gonna go to Apple Podcasts. So let's. Where's my Apple Podcasts? Where'd it go? Dang it, where'd it go? Oh, I guess it's on the desk. No? See, I have a Mac and I have a Mac Studio, and I have them set up a little bit differently, and I think I took podcasts off the menu for some reason on this one. So let's see here. We're gonna put this back on for here. Come on. Right, there we go. Okay, so the Drowsy Podcast. Let's go. Drowsy Podcast. Okay. Looking it up. So, yes, purple thumbnail that says Drowsy. Yeah, I see it. It says Drowsy. There it is. Let me pause my music. Hang on. Pause my music, and then we're gonna. Let me see here if this works.
Well, are ghosts a conspiracy?
That's not your podcast. That's not your podcast. Let's see, I gotta go to, okay, there we go, Drowsy. And then this is probably the description. Description is, do you find it difficult to unwind after you fall asleep? Unwind and fall asleep? Would you enjoy someone reading you a story? Oh yeah, there you are, Jermaine. There it is, so that's you. Okay, so is there any particular one that you want me to listen to? I can listen to one and kind of give you some idea of, you know, what we're doing, but I see that you are doing, I see trailer. I guess we can listen to the trailer. Let's try the trailer here. Hang on.
Greetings. Do you find it difficult to unwind and fall asleep? Would you enjoy someone reading you a story until you nod off into slumberland? Hi, I'm Jermaine. Welcome to the Drowsy Podcast.
Got a great voice, man.
Every week, I'll deliver an episode dedicated to your relaxation and restful sleep by reading stories for listeners of all ages. The sounds and stories are carefully curated with the goal of putting your mind and body at rest. Please remember to follow the show and recommend it to someone you love.
Very cool. Very cool. Let me see here. So, let's see here. Any particular episode you want me to go to? Like it just segged right into the episode 1, The Wind in the Willows. I see it's a 34-minute piece of audio. So, hi, Mrs. Buddha. Yes, it has been a long time since I have shown up on YouTube and published any type of content whatsoever, which is okay. You know, like I was telling Jermaine, I've been around. I'm still doing stuff with podcasts. I am editing podcasts. I'm editing and publishing podcasts, mainly for the Guy Kawasaki Remarkable People podcast. And so really that's where I've been this entire time. So it has been, you know, a lot of that. And then life just kind of happened. I can tell you right now that life really kind of happened. I think I stopped publishing back in 2021. Um, and I'll kind of give you guys an idea since there's a few of you on here. So I stopped publishing YouTube videos in 2021, mainly because I got a little burned out, and so it was a little difficult for me to do it all on my own. You're talking about publishing YouTube videos and trying to come up with good content that would be valuable to podcasters. But I was doing it all on my own, right? And so didn't really have a plan to make that a little easier on me. And so I kind of gave that up, not completely. I didn't want to give it up completely, but I stepped back on it. And so during that time, 2021, some personal things kind of came up, and so I ended up I ended up joining my HOA of my condo complex. In 2020, the previous board, HOA board, had decided that they wanted to go ahead and remove all the trees and landscaping in my complex, and they did. And we were with this really crazy, shoddy management company, and they ended up like destroying my entire property, which was crazy, like just destroyed it. And so and we were paying him, like, this is the whole thing, we were paying him. And so it was the summer of so this had been going on since 21, 22. So this had been going on for like a year in 2022, and by the summer of 2023, it was here in Phoenix, Arizona, it was ridiculously hot. Like, it was so hot. We had the month of July where we had something like 24 days of temperatures reaching over 118 degrees, or at least 118 degrees, and it was so hot. My place, my air conditioning, was not really working all that well, and it was a lot of it was a result of the management company that we were dealing with, and so that became kind of a challenge for us. And so my neighbor upstairs, the one that's directly above me, she was there, and she was like, "This place looks like crap." She goes, "What's going on here?" I said, "I don't even know." I go, "The current board, I don't know what they're even doing, and they're trying to say that they're going to paint the place," which they did. And I said, "But they're trying to put new landscaping in." But at the time, we had an electrical fire. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff that had gone on. And so she said, "Well, let's join the board." And I said, "Okay." So I joined the HOA board. I'm one of those guys. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. But I don't intend on being on the board forever. And the only reason that I joined the HOA board was because I wanted to see the improvements of the property. The property looks terrible. I mean, it looks terrible. There's no landscaping. It looks like it's just been under construction for like the longest time. And up until this year, we just finally got started on, we had to go through all the paperwork. We had to get our finances set. And once we got all that taken care of, then we ended up, like within the last couple of weeks, we started construction again. So we're going to be installing a new electrical panel for one side of the complex. And once that's done, then we're going to work towards getting some brand new stairs and decks. You're talking about wooden stairs and decks that have not been replaced in like 30 years or even repaired for the most part. So we're going to be getting some new concrete ones, which would be kind of nice. And so, yeah, I'm on the board for that. But I mean, I really don't care what people have out in front of their place. I don't care about that. So that's really kind of what took up a lot of my time, and it's still taking up a little bit of my time. But things seem to be kind of like tapering off and slowing down, and I can get back into doing some more of this podcast stuff. I've been really just focusing on the Guy Kawasaki podcast and editing up that, because sometimes I'll get 1 to 2 podcasts to edit that need to be published within or at least sent back within a week. And so, and they're like hour-long podcasts, so sometimes I've got to sit here and I've got to go through and I've got to edit and I've got to make changes, and and that's really kind of all it was. So I just focus on that. But in that time, I have been also focusing on wanting to reboot some new things. I was gonna do it in the summer of this year, and it just got really hard for me, because the heat here in Phoenix just becomes difficult. And when you're recording, you're trying to record, you got an air conditioner going on, you've got now I have to have portable air conditioners in the summer blowing, and so like you hear that air, you hear that noise, and it can kind of be a little bit annoying. But I'm thinking that when we come, like as long as I'm living here, I think in the future summers I'm going to just record regardless with that air conditioning because the summers here are way too hot. I mean, we were in October this year, so the beginning of this month. Um, Everywhere else, pretty much in the country, is like in fall, and Phoenix is still in summer. Like we were still reaching 110 degrees all the way up until about October 15th, and so it just recently cooled down just a little bit. Today, I think, is like 72 degrees outside, so it's nice. But I got sick within the last week, and so or 2 weeks ago, and so it's just been kind of crazy. It's been nuts. So yeah, so I have been working on a few things. I've been doing Amazon videos, product videos, and that has kind of helped me as well. So I've been busy, but like so I'm still working. I'm not sure if you can see. I'm still working on stuff. I got my mixing board right there, and my microphone, all my stuff that's going on. So I've been recalibrating, recalibrating. That's what we'll call it. I've been recalibrating. All right, let me get to a couple comments here. Let's see here. Sure, episode. Okay, we'll do episode 1 here in a second. I'll give like a little 5-minute listen. Maybe you just kind of scrub through it and see what we got. Mrs. Buddha, I don't blame you today. Our Facebook page was disabled. That's horrible. But when we checked it, was not our email or username. It got hacked, so we lost everything. And the following the monetizing. I don't blame you. I understand that. Do you have? I would imagine that you are going to be putting in some type of like two-factor authentication with that because that's just no fun whatsoever. Yeah, I have been busy. It has been nuts. So with the HOA board, it takes up a lot of time, and then of course I got to work at night still at the radio station, so I'm still doing that. Someone earlier this year left from the radio station, so the station asked me to go ahead and fill in for that, doing the social media for the station, and I did, and that required me to learn things like After Effects, Adobe After Effects, just crazy. So it has been kind of nuts, but now things are kind of slowing down in the areas of HOA and work, and so I think it's probably good that I can go ahead and get moving and start start working on my own stuff. I truly hope you're taking time for taking time to breathe. And yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, there is a lot that is going on. There's still a lot going on. I got some kind of personal family things going on right now, but those at one point in time I'll explain it. But it's just stuff like I'm going up to see my mom and dad every other weekend. They live about 2 hours away, so they're in their 80s, and so I'm making efforts to go up there and help them out. I got siblings, but they have families, so I've been going up and just making sure and checking on my parents and things like that. So there's a lot going on, but I'm doing my best to kind of like try to get some stuff done in the middle of the week, and just to kind of I'll tell you guys right now, like those who are here. So I have been recording podcasts. I have been recording like these test podcasts, and I'm recording them more towards. I'm recording them more like a radio program, like you would see or hear on the radio, news talk radio. They're very much in the same flavor as as like my radio station, the rock radio station. That it's really in that flavor, so it's got a little bit more edge to it. And so I spent some time producing some pieces. I've spent some time programming my RØDECaster Pro II. I spent some time looking up different apps to make it all work in sync so that I can really shave down time in terms of how I podcast. I understand that podcasts and podcasting can be, it can come in many different forms. Like when we listen to Drowsy's podcast or Jermaine's podcast, the Drowsy podcast. It's just a different style. So I am going to be gearing my future content more towards entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people like that, people who want to, turn this thing into a side business and really kind of like focus on that. But in the meantime, I'm still willing to help out podcasters who are just kind of doing it on the casual side and, kind of work from there. So let's see here. It's like my heater in Buffalo during, yeah. So like AC here, right? Problems here. And then I've always explained to my buddy Jeff, I tell him, I go, yeah, but I think people in like the East Coast have issues with their heaters and, and they're stuck inside. Cause I mean, I was honestly, truly stuck inside all summer this summer. These curtains right here have been closed. I mean, they were open earlier today because it's not as hot, but they're closed so they can keep the heat out, right? And it's still like extremely warm in here. So, I totally get it. I get it 100%. So, yeah, I think we all just kind of do the best that we can. We just try to find the systems that are best for us. As far as taking care of myself, I am still exercising, but I had some issues with pulled muscles. I had sneezed last year. This is a good one. I had sneezed last year, and when I sneezed, I pulled a muscle in my rib cage. And then when I went to go do some yoga, and I was doing some stretches, I pulled the rib muscle pretty harshly, and so I was down for like I guess 2 or 3 months, and it still kind of gives me a little bit of a twinge every now and again, but I try to take care of myself, and I try to at least get a little bit of exercise, at least 40 minutes these days. And now that the weather's nice, I can actually go outside and walk. In Phoenix, you can't walk on the asphalt in 118 degrees. You'll die. You'll literally die. So, yeah, so there's that. Have I tried Restream? Yeah, I have tried Restream. So, but I'm not, I haven't like dove too deep into it. My buddy Jeff uses it quite a bit for his podcast, the social media news live podcast. So he does use that, and I'm probably going to use it as well. But the videos that I recorded some videos of a podcast that I did last week. It was a test podcast, and I streamed it live to YouTube, but it was an unlisted video. And so I just wanted to see how I could get the sound to level out, and then maybe start going live. I've got quite a few things here. I've got a stream deck now, the RØDECaster Pro II. I mean, I can share with you some of the sounds that I've made, but I think Drowsy is looking for his, or I'm sorry, Jermaine is looking for a little bit of a I don't know, just a review on this, right? So I'm thinking about Ecamm Live or Riverside. I have Ecamm, so if you have a Mac, I use Ecamm, and maybe at some point when I go and start doing some live streams, I can show you like what I have set up. Some of the things that I have used in terms of graphics for Ecamm, and we're not talking I'm doing crazy things. I have used, I've had to learn Adobe After Effects, at least the basics of Adobe After Effects, to build in some graphics for a video podcast. I really want to primarily focus on audio podcasts. I know video is kind of like a big thing, for people. I mean, last year, was it last year or the year before? I was in Denver at Podcast Movement, and so everyone was already starting to talk about video podcasts, but there are things about video podcasts. I'm not against video podcasting. In the past, I was, because I was like, it's kind of a waste of your time to do. Like, we're talking when I first started doing my YouTube videos, right? I was like, don't put the podcast on YouTube as just like a slate card or whatever, and you're not going to get any traction. And most people never got any traction whatsoever. But then as YouTube started to like recognize and notice that there were these apps, these third-party apps that were, publishing to YouTube, and it was a slate card. It was just like a static slate card, and it just had audio. Then that's when YouTube decided to say like, oh, I think this is what they decided to do. They were like, let's go ahead and do some, let's incorporate YouTube podcasts. And so I thought that was cool. So I am not against video podcasting whatsoever. In fact, I would encourage it probably, but it does require a lot more in terms of production value, because you're going to be dealing with audio and you're going to be dealing with video. And so that is kind of like what I have really been trying to focus on. I've been focusing more on the streamlining the process, the pre-production process, so that when you go and you record the podcast, that it's really more about you record the podcast and it should be 95% ready to publish. So that's what I think is important, but doesn't mean that you shouldn't publish a video to YouTube. You can do shorts, but you can also do live videos. And then, of course, you can turn those live videos into podcasts, and those podcasts can help you. But it's really more about the nuts and bolts of YouTube. and understanding how to market that video out onto YouTube. Like the reason why I have a certain amount of people that have subscribed to my YouTube channel was because of the strategies that I had always been implementing from the start when I was publishing videos. And I still, to this day, I've been to conferences like Podcast Movement. I've been to things like a Kajabi event where there's, influencers and people who are just kind of like, oh, I don't know how, I'm going to just do YouTube and just start publishing. But it's not like that. There is an actual process that goes into publishing on YouTube. So I want to be able to make that aware and known for podcasters, because if they're just publishing to YouTube and they're not getting any traction, what's the point of publishing to YouTube? You know what I'm saying? So it would be more beneficial to do that. But again, Jermaine, I would look into Ecamm. In fact, I think, let me think, maybe I might have an affiliate link for it. I don't know. I can't remember if I have an affiliate link, but if I find an affiliate link, I'll reach out to you, or reach out to me. I'm actually on Threads. I really don't play on X or Twitter anymore, but I am on Threads. So if you want to reach out to me on Threads, my handle is, in fact, let me see here. I got my other account up here, so I'm going to put it in the chat. My Threads account is at, let's see here. Sorry. Oops. Let me see here. Sorry. It's, I don't know if I can put links in here. Threads.net/@Shannon J. Hernandez. That's my Threads account right there. So I don't know if that takes you to Threads or not, but I am on Threads. I love Threads. Absolutely, Jermaine. I love Threads. I think Threads has got a way better algorithm than X. X used to have a really cool algorithm, but then like when it was taken over by Elon Musk, it just became weird. I don't care about the politics of it all, but he did something with that algorithm, and it just did not. It just didn't work for me. And so then I was like, okay, I need to refigure this out. So then when I started using Threads, and I published something about my HOA actually, and I got so much interaction on that. But then I started looking up different topics, and I was getting the content that I wanted that was coming to my feed, which I thought was really, really cool. So let me see here. Hang on. Okay, let me see here. I don't know what I'm looking at here. Okay, I'm thinking about Ecamm. Okay, I like audio podcasts because I put my headphones and I could listen while I clean. Exactly. So I think when we have to look at the nature of podcasts, we have to look at the nature of like where your ideal listener is going to be listening, right? And I think when you hear people say like, you got to do a video podcast, it's not necessarily true. I don't think it's necessarily true, because being in radio, I understand the nature of who my audience is, right? My audience understands that they are listening to something that is audio only. There's no live stream. There's nothing that is like that, right? And those people that are listening to the radio are typically listening, like you said, cleaning, they're driving, maybe they're at home and they just have the music on. You have to understand that they're busy, so they're utilizing audio as kind of like passive listening. It's still there. It's not active listening, but they're still kind of passively listening. And I experienced this day in, day out, and night in, night out, that people listen passively to something like radio. Now, there is the argument that that podcasting is more active listening. And I don't know if that is necessarily true. There has been that argument from other people that I know that are in the space that say like podcasting is an active listening platform. And I just don't know if I completely 100% agree with that, because when I listen to a podcast, like for instance, like I like to listen to news podcasts, and I'll listen to the Marketplace podcast. And to me, that's my commute to work. It's like a 20-minute podcast, and I get to hear the news of the day, and it's like I can listen to it, but I'm not actively like going and pressing links and all that, right? I'm getting the news. It's like a news program. If something happens, if stopped at a light and I have to turn the radio down, it's still being passive. That's what I look at it as, right? But it doesn't mean that that's the only way. It doesn't have to be passive. It can I guess it could be active at some point in time. But I guess if you're giving great information, or in the case of Jermaine, you're creating something for a specific time, right? So you're doing podcasts where you're doing them at bedtime. Audio podcast might be the perfect way to do it, right? So that's the way I kind of look at it. So Jermaine says Threads is like, yes, it is very much like early Twitter. That's why I like Threads. I like Threads a lot. Okay, I do an amateur radio show and want to do interviews. Okay, yeah, maybe you can hear. I'll show you kind of like how I do it. You know, I'm doing it with the RØDECaster Pro II, and I have set all of that stuff up. I spent probably a solid month this year going in and really learning the most that I could about the RØDECaster Pro for my purposes. But you know, I think it works great. You have the Duo. The Duo will do just fine for you, man. You know, I might have to do, if I can, I'll have to figure it out how to do a top-down video. I know I could do a top-down video. Actually, I know I can do a top-down video because I use Ecamm. So I could do a top-down video maybe one day. Maybe I implement like maybe a tutorial or something like that. I don't know yet. I can't make a promise on that, but I do know that I can show you how to do that, especially with a RØDECaster Duo. It's very similar to the RØDECaster Pro, right? One question about that Duo though, number one, how long have you had the Duo? And then number two, did you have to do an update on the Duo at all through Rode? Because I had a buddy that got the Duo, but he was running it through a PC, and the PC wasn't capturing the audio the right way, and he had to do some update on the PC, and then it finally started recording his audio a lot better. His audio was like very muddy, and so I told him you should get a Mac, but that was just me teasing him. So, oh, you have a MacBook, so it probably worked really well. It probably worked like plug and play for you then, I'm assuming, right? So, yeah, so that's that. Hang on. Much better. Okay, so let's check this out. Let's give it a little listen. Thank you for joining. Like this post if you can, if you're still here. I don't know. I know I'm watching on here, but so I think there's only a few people watching, but let's go here.
Welcome to
Let's start again because I have a couple questions to ask you. So, what do you want me to kind of give an idea of like what I think or how? Like I can give you more technical, probably advice if you want me to. You don't have to listen to my technical advice, but I'll give you some technical advice. Just because these types of podcasts, you know, I don't really focus too much on these types of podcasts, but I can kind of give you an idea of the technical aspect of it all because there are some things that probably can be improved upon, I'm sure, because it's mostly what I hear in podcasts where it has to deal with audio, and I'm like, I really can't hear this, and they need to fix this. So, all right, cool. All right, let's give a little whirl here. Hang on.
Welcome to the Drowsy Podcast. My name is Jermaine, and this is episode number 1. That's right, the very first episode, and I'm so excited to bring the show to you. The inaugural episode will be a reading of the book, The Wind and the Willows. We'll start at the very beginning, chapter 1. If you're not already familiar with it, it's a children's novel written by the British novelist Kenneth Grahame, first published in the year 1908. Chapter 1 will introduce you to a few characters, namely Mr. Mole, Water Rat, Badger, as well as Mr. Toad. I'm so excited to finally bring this show to you. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so what are you? Let me ask you this question: are you using is this episode recorded on the RØDECaster Duo? Just curious altogether. And number 2, did you do post-production in an audio a DAW, like a digital audio workstation, like Audacity or Audition? Just curious. So you did do it on the Rodecaster Pro II. You used Spotify for podcasters. So I don't play too much. Well, I'll be honest. I haven't played in Spotify for podcasters. There are some things, and I don't tell me about Spotify for podcasters. I probably should pay attention to this, but I just haven't paid attention to Spotify for podcasters. I think Spotify for podcasters is it's the old version of, what was that platform that I told people to stay away from? I forget what it was. I forget, but I know that I was like, yeah, Anchor. Thank you. It was Anchor. So yeah, I didn't like Anchor at all, and so because it was limited, and so, but I don't know. Maybe they made improvements. I couldn't lower the music levels like I wanted. Okay, so the good thing for you is that as you continue to build these out, and I mean, I think this would be a really good podcast to do practice on, right? Practice your Rodecaster Duo mixing skills, live mixing skills. But it doesn't have to be live mixing all the time, because I realize that you're reading a book, right? I wanted to start with $0. Now I think I'll proceed and I'm willing to invest in it. So yeah, let's see if we can work through trying to figure out what would be best for you. That's one thing that I have learned over the years, is that you have to, you've got to work with what works for you. Not everyone is going to go by what I do, right? But you got to work with what's best for you. So let me go through it, and then I'll give you a few more. I'll give you some solid advice on what I hear could be improved, because it doesn't sound bad. It's just there's little improvements, little things that can be improved to make it a little bit better, and there'll be reasons for that when it comes down to listening on your device or listening on an iPad or a computer or things like that. So let me go in and I'll listen for a few more minutes.
Chapter 1. The Riverbank. The mole had been working very hard all the morning, spring cleaning his little home. First with brooms, then with dusters, then on ladders and steps and chairs, with a brush and a pail of whitewash, till he had dust in his throat and eyes, and splashes of whitewash all over his black fur, and an aching back and weary arms. Spring was moving in the air above, and in the earth below and around him, penetrating even his dark and lowly little house with its spirit of divine discontent and longing. It was small wonder, then, that he suddenly flung down his brush on the floor and said, "Bother," and "Oh, blow," and also, "Hang spring cleaning," and bolted out of the house without even waiting to put on his coat. Something up above was calling him imperiously, and he made for the steep little tunnel which answered, in his case, to the graveled carriage drive owned by animals whose residences are nearer to the sun and air. So he scraped and scratched and scrabbled and scrooged, and then he scrooged again and scrabbled and scratched and scraped, working busily with his little paws and muttering to himself, up we go, till at last, pop, his snout came out into the sunlight, and he found himself rolling in the warm grass of a great meadow. "This is fine," he said to himself. "This is better than whitewashing." The sunshine struck hot on his fur, soft breezes caressed his heated brow, and after the seclusion of the cellarage he had lived in so long, the carol of happy birds fell on his dulled hearing almost like a shout. Jumping off all his four legs at once, in the joy of living and the delight of spring without its cleaning, he pursued his way across the meadow till he reached the hedge on the further side.
Okay, cool. So, not too much. I mean, actually, it sounds really good. It sounds really good as far as the audio is concerned. It's good. I mean, as far as pacing is concerned, I'm assuming that you're reading it from a book, I'm assuming, right? So it's good pacing, easy for children to consume, easy for parents. Your voice is very, very soothing. So I love that. I love that about the podcast. So the things that I would improve though is that it is obviously the audio, because when we listen to audio, okay, as an example, and I'll give you an example before we jump into like why I think that the overall audio needs to be boosted. And there are specific ways that you can do that whenever you're boosting audio. And I can show you, maybe we show you, I get people out and I say like, hey, we're gonna do a tutorial on how to boost your audio, make it a little bit better and make it level, right? And when I go like this, it's not like quotes. Think of it like, let me see here. I'll give you an example. I guess I can draw on it. So if we have a bunch of wave lines that look like this, if you can see that, if you have wave lines that look like that, you see that there's peaks and valleys, like, right? There's peaks and valleys. I'll use a different color pen to show you, but there's different peaks and valleys. And when we have those different peaks and valleys in audio, it's obviously meaning that where the audio is a little less, it's a little more difficult to hear, right? As opposed to other pieces of audio in your entire piece of work. So what you're trying to do ultimately is you're trying to actually make those waveforms all compressed down and look even across. It's going to look like a rectangle. So instead of it just looking as though it's a bunch of waveforms, you're going to have waveforms that are going to look like this. It's going to be all even. So it's literally going to look even. Like if you can see that in the green, it's going to look even that way. So when we create audio, most podcasters are using the audio that is being recorded either onto the device or being recorded into, say, Spotify for podcasters or Audacity or wherever, and they're not taking the treatment of the overall volume or the gain in certain areas of the audio. They're not taking that as seriously as when it relates to the overall audio. So the overall audio should look as one file. It should look like it's a colored in piece of rectangle. And you see this when you look at music. You look at when people have engineered music, and you see songs, and you see the waveform in, say, like Audition, and it will look like just one big brick. It'll have waveforms, but it will look like one big brick. And what they've done is they basically have normalized the audio. That's all they've done. They've normalized the audio completely. And then when you plug it in or you turn it on into onto a stereo, or you're listening into headphones from an iPhone, or you're listening anywhere, what you're trying to do is you're not trying to go beyond a peak. You're not trying to, what they would say, overmodulate the audio, because that's when you hear the buzzing and it sounds like it's buzzing, or just it's staticky, right? You're not trying to get it to that point. What you're trying to do is, in my experience, you're trying to get it just a few steps below that. And the reasoning for that is because think of like when you're driving in a car and you listen to a podcast, and you go and you're driving and the podcast starts, and then you hear it, and then you got the road noise, you got things going on, you got birds chirping, whatever, and you go to turn it up, and it only goes up to a certain point, and you still can't hear the audio. And that becomes a problem. I mean, think about the podcasts that you've heard that have done that, and it becomes difficult to hear that audio. So I have always told podcasters, and I know it's, podcasters go into this whole thing about like, oh, it's got to be so many loofs before, so that it can be appropriate for it to be listened on Apple Podcasts, or it can be listened on Spotify. Me, because I've been doing this for 24 years, and been doing it in Audition for 24 years, it has always been to me either negative 6 dB or negative 3 dB. The overall audio always needs to be negative 6 dB or negative 3 dB. That's it. And when you plug it into your phone and you turn it up, it allows you to turn the volume all the way up, but it gives the listener the opportunity to choose to turn it down, like to their level. So you're trying to get that level to be as loud as you possibly can without over modulating it, but you're keeping it a few steps down, so you're giving the listener the opportunity to turn it down. So in the circumstance of this podcast, I do like how soft your voice is. I love all of that. But what I would do is I would boost the overall audio, and now I can show that at some point. I would boost the overall audio to where it is about -3 dB or -6 dB. And that would be your final mix. And this, let's just say it's like mastering. It would be like mastering something, and you bring that down just a little bit so that it allows the listener to go ahead and turn that up as much as they want or turn it down to the level that they enjoy. Does that make sense to you? Just think of it in terms of listening to music. If you've ever heard any type of music, whether that be rock, heavy metal, rap, pop, jazz, chill music, whatever, that volume is always at a certain level, and you never want that level to be too exciting. In parts of the podcast, what you're trying to do is you're trying to level all those pieces of audio. So like I suppose like one of these days, like I should probably show people like how I edit a podcast, and how you can still take crappy pieces of audio, and you could take those crappy pieces of audio and utilize them. You can still utilize them in the audio, or in your overall podcast itself. But for the most part, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get all that audio to sound the same, is all it is. So there's nothing that you can do about what you put into the microphone and what is captured. You would, like a podcaster would have to really dial in the gear and their microphone. They would need to dial that stuff in order to get the best possible sound. And when we're dealing with things like, Squadcasts or Riverside or Ecamm, and people are using Focusrites, or people are using whatever interface, it makes it difficult for them to really get quality audio captured, right? And so if the audio that is captured isn't quality, but you're going to make that your final audio, you got to work with what you got, right? And like we've dealt with this in the past with guys' podcasts. Sometimes they'll have a bad recording and it's buzzing, it sounds terrible, and Jeff will ask me, can you change this? Can you fix that? I'm like, man, I can't fix what you put in there. Like, if you want me to, I can, but that's going to be like an additional charge, and to be honest with you, if I do that, it's not going to come out the way that you want it to. So it's just better to use this piece of audio, fix the problem for the next episode, and move forward. Because you just got to be very cognizant of the audio that you're working with. So makes sense. I have Audacity. Yeah, so I don't know if it can be done in Audacity. I stopped using Audacity. I started using, I've always used Audition, because it makes those processes a lot faster for me. So for me, it's about speed, expediting the process so that I don't spend all the time in the DAW, in video editing, trying to figure out the audio itself. If you have a Rodecaster Duo, you should already have some of these set up that will match the timbre of your voice. It'll match how your voice works. I don't know if you've gone into the Rodecaster Duo and if you've adjusted the dB levels on what the output is of the microphone. Sounds fine to me. I will say this, with the RØDECaster Pro, and I'm sure that with the Duo, you are getting the best possible quality audio. It's still at a lower dB, but that's something that you can typically fix in post-production. And so it makes it a little bit more of a challenge. That's why I've said pretty much for the most part that when I'm creating these podcasts, when I've done these test podcasts, that 95% of it is done by the time I've stopped recording, and I've stopped recording, and I go and I take it actually out of the Rode and I put it into Audition, and that's where I take all that audio and I normalize it to where it looks like a big square or a rectangle, right? And then at that point, it should be a no-brainer. So at the most, it should take the time it takes to record the podcast, and then it should take after that the most 30 minutes. Me, if I'm focused, I do it in about 20 to 15 minutes. And then that's just to get the audio, right? That's not the publish. So that's just to get the audio. And then the publish takes like whatever, however long time. But I've also created, and something that I have been working on over the past summer, is that there's so many tools out there that you can use for AI, right? That will allow you to streamline show notes or whatever. But the ones that I have looked at, they just don't measure up to me. There are specific things you should be having in your show notes, and so I created a tool on ChatGPT that only I have access to. I have access to it, and I've given it access to a client for him to test out. And basically, all it does is that it pulls those. I allow you to transcribe the actual podcast, and then take those transcriptions and then be able to process them a specific way inside of AI. So that's kind of something that I think is really important, I think, for podcasters when it comes down to having appropriate search engine optimization, not just for Apple, but for YouTube. If you're going to be doing YouTube videos, I think that's something that I think is pretty important too. So I don't know. Does that help you out, Jermaine, at all? With some of this stuff, like I don't want to come off as like, oh, I'm the super know-it-all about all this stuff. I just know how I do it, and if how I do it gives you an idea of how to make it your own, then that means more to me than you having to actually do it the way I do it, right? So you're actually doing it the way that you do it, but you're taking the tips and the hints and transforming them into something that you do. I know there's guys out there like my friends, Dave Jackson. He's been doing this for a long time, but he does it a different way than me, and I don't disrespect how he does it. It's just a different way. I do mine a different way. There's many podcasters. I mean, Pat Flynn does his a different way. I do mine a different way. There's a lot of people that do this a specific way, but what I really would like to focus on mostly is to help the podcaster who is looking to move or transition into or is kind of in that entrepreneurial side hustle space. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to have a business. Maybe like, say for instance, this podcast, right? The Drowsy podcast. Maybe you have the Drowsy podcast, then you have like the commentary after that, and you do a podcast of the commentary about, the stories and an analysis, and that could be kind of cool to do, right? So that could be something that you do, but it would be, I want to be able to teach these people here's what you're going to have to start doing, and you're going to have to start investing in these small areas of your podcast, which basically turns it into a business. So it does take time, it does take money. I'm certainly not perfect at it, but it does work, and I know it does work. So let's see here. I would like to have a podcast. I would like to have the podcast and my radio show as a community. I think that is very doable too. Maybe I bring my buddy Seth in one of these days, and we talk a little bit about community, because he's a radio guy that left the radio industry and started focusing on building out community and teaching people how to build community. So doesn't mean that I don't know how to teach community either. I can teach it. I mean, I have a community on Facebook, where every Thursday I go live, and I have a community there that they're just specific about like rock music, right? Rock music, concerts, free stuff. I mean, that's their jam, right? And so not everyone is going to be into that, and I completely understand that, and I get it. But that's what that audience is about. It is completely 180 degrees away from what I do here on YouTube. And, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, to where I have segmented those specific audiences away, because I know not everyone wants to do a podcast over there, right? But I know on YouTube, what I built out here are podcast specific people who want to learn about podcasting. So I think that's kind of an important note to take, right? You want to be able to say, I've done it in real life applications, but I also can do it on the other side where, I'm building something out, right? So that's really kind of where I want to be able to teach people. I want to teach them the community aspects. I want to teach them how to drive people to those communities. And I'm sure, you have, seen some of these strategies and tactics, but it does take a little bit more effort to go through and do them. The investment, I think, is the hardest part, but that doesn't mean it's not impossible, right? Like when I started investing in doing this type of stuff, um, I was, consulting. And then when COVID happened, I was pushing a lot about my essential equipment guides, my podcast launch checklist. I still push those out, and those are things that they really helped me during COVID. That's when all the money went dry, but people had money to burn, right? So people had money to burn because they were trying to start podcasts. Maybe they wanted to build I don't know, they wanted to redo the inside of their home. Say there was money that was being burned, and I was getting consultation gigs. I was selling those guides, and those pieces that I invested in helped me get like a RØDECaster Pro II. They helped me invest and get different softwares and services. So it can be done. It just takes time, and it's not done overnight, right? It's definitely not done overnight, but it's done. It can be done, and it's pretty easy. So sign me up. Okay, we'll sign you up. So I don't know which part we're signing up for, because sometimes I just ramble and then I forget what I was thinking. Sorry. But you would like to have the radio? Yeah, we could totally figure that out with Seth, with the radio, with the podcast and the radio show. That's a big topic of conversation in the radio industry right now where I work, where they're trying to do some stuff with podcasting, and they're talking about their radio show, and putting it as a podcast. And so I'm supposed to, well, I'm not supposed to, but I am supposed to reach out to this guy who works for Hubbard Radio, who is the head of podcasting, because everyone's like, you need to talk to him. You're the podcast guy. You need to talk to him. I'm like, okay, we'll see how it works. So thanks to you, we improved our quality. Well, I'm glad. I'm totally glad that your quality has been improved. So as long as I can make that happen, and I realize if I'm serving 1 to 2 or 3 people that do this, and hopefully I can make it a little bit easier and better for them to improve the quality of their podcast. I know my content is a little old, I get it, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. I mean, it still works. I mean, there are some things that have changed a little bit, or there's some things that I have improved upon. But I've always seen it as it's not enough for me to go out and create a video about it, because it's just like, well, I just create a video and then I'd be disappearing for a while, right? So but I know that there is a way to do it on YouTube and doing it a little bit better for other people. I know remaking videos, updating videos is kind of important too. So yeah, so that is that. I'm not sure exactly how, if we were to really kind of talk about and transition into like how I'm going to be using this vertical video. Not sure how I'm going to be using this vertical video. I was just coming on to really kind of play. Oops, sorry about that. I was coming in to really kind of just play with this interface right here. There's buttons that I can push. I don't know. Let's see here. At least 1 minute of video is needed to start a highlight. I don't know what that means, but that's what that means right there. I don't know. I need to stop that. Go away. So anyway, there's that. So yeah, I don't know. I definitely want to do this for live video. I know TikTok does this type of stuff. I was on TikTok on Friday, and I thought it was kind of cool to see all this go on. So we'll see. If you want like a little teaser, I guess, of what I've been working on as far as the sounds are concerned. I mean, I think you guys have heard them in my podcast before if you went back and listened to them, but the difference in the podcast that I produced in 2021 versus the podcast that I will produce soon are different in the fact that it's all being live mixed here this year versus the podcasts I produced in 21, where those were all manual. They were all manually put together inside of Adobe Audition. And that took me that was very intense. That took me at least 40 minutes to put together. So I can show you kind of some of those sounds real quick before I split. But, if you want, I can. But if not, we don't have to do that today. Let's see here. Thank you for the improved quality, for your help videos or lives. You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome, Mrs. Buddha. I'm glad that I've helped out. I know that I've gone on live before, but for whatever reason, doing it on the phone seems a lot more fun. Don't know why. Don't know why. So glad you came on. Thanks very much. You're welcome, Jermaine. You're very welcome. Yeah, keep working on this. I think that if you work on this particular podcast, this Drowsy podcast, it'll help you with, obviously the editing and, how to work some of that stuff as far as the editing is concerned. But maybe what I'll do is I'll start reaching out to my email list and say like, hey, I'm going to be doing a live stream coming up on, I don't know, I'm not saying it's going to be this Friday, but we'll say like some Friday I'll do like a live stream and I'll teach you how to do this, right? And so I think that might help some people out. Maybe not. You guys get, at least me, it's like having a free consultation call, right? You get me to at least share with you what you're doing. I'll share with you what I'm doing. But yeah, I think, Jermaine, I think that if you go with this, you will improve the quality of your editing significantly, and then you'll learn. You'll really learn. Like, oh yeah, this sounds a lot better, or no, I don't like the way that Shannon does it, but I know how I've worked it to where I can make it sound better than my way. Like maybe I can give you some ideas and tips on all of that. So yeah, we can try and figure that out. So let me see here. Hang on real quick. So let me show you. I'll just kind of show you what the sounds are that I've been using. So let me see here. Okay, so what I've been doing, let me see if I can come here. Let me do this because this is let me see, this isn't going to be a challenge. So I'll show you, I guess I'll show you real quick what I'm going to do here. You're welcome, Jermaine. Yeah, sign up for the email. I don't know what will happen, but we'll see. I'll flip the camera down, and let me flip the camera down here. So there's my RØDECaster Pro. Let me clean the lens here so you can get a better idea of what's going on. Sorry. Okay, that looks a little bit better. All right, so there we are. There's the RØDECaster Pro. And what I have done on my Pro is I have, if I can give you, there we go. What I have done is I have assigned each and every fader to a specific, a specific sound or something, right? I've arranged it. I've rearranged what was originally out of the box into what I'm doing. And so obviously what I'm doing within my mixing board is that this is obviously going to be the microphone. It's going to be this microphone right here. If you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's this microphone. But that's the microphone. And the settings is that I've got it set up to where it works like a radio station microphone. I can turn it on and off, as you can see right there, the best that you can. The next one is going to be the chat. So this is going to be calls from Zoom, Skype, wherever, Restream, or not Restream, Squadcast. This is where this is going to be. Then I leave an empty fader. So this is an empty fader. This one right here is going to be sound from the computer, although I don't think it's going to work out because through my tests, the tests have created some feedback, so I might be eliminating this fader for the feedback alone. This is the Bluetooth right here. So this Bluetooths into, let me see here. It Bluetooths into this app right here on my iPad. And so this will be all the sounds that I have that I've set up. So my podcast will have, I guess you could say, commercials, right? They'll have commercials. And I set this up, and it's very much like how a radio station would set up commercials. So my commercials, though, are more or less affiliate links that I'm sharing out or things that I'm promoting. And there's a whole reason behind that, and I'll explain that at some point in time. But yeah, these are the sounds that come out of that fader. And then this fader is going to be this final fader on the last is going to be all the sounds from the hotkeys right here. So I'm not using any virtual faders at all whatsoever, but I have loaded these, and I plan on loading more into the into here so that I can share how it works. I know there's guys out there that do this way better than I do. Quite honestly, I think it's good for them that they know how to do it a lot better. It's just not me. You know, I like to just keep it simple, and I think that's the philosophy that we've kind of gone about in radio, is like just keep it as simple as you can without overcomplicating the process. So this all works in terms of kind of a method of like start to finish, if that makes any sense. So I've arranged these colors to do a certain thing, right? So this purple one means that I'm going to be hitting a hotkey that is my identifier of the podcast. And then the greens are going to identify that they are stagers. They're stagers for certain segments of the podcast. And then if it's in red, it means it's going to be like a bullet stop. It's a stop, or it's a transition into another element. And then what's in pink, these are pink down here. What's in pink would be music beds right here. So the way the show is going to be focused is that I can just easily start going like this. I've got to do a quick arrangement on this at some point in time, but I will be able to figure it out, you know, and make it a little easier on me. And then I'll kind of show you how it works on that end with these right here, because they all work kind of simultaneously. Okay. So just to give you an idea of how it's going to work, and if you've heard the podcast before, you'll know how it sounds. I don't know if this is going to blow you guys out. I got to turn this down right here. So this, you probably have heard this if you heard the podcast.
Mixdown Media Productions.
So that's just the individual sound, right? When you hear the final podcast, it all runs together. So it would sound like, so you're going to have this sound. I'll show you what this sound is, and then you'll see how it sounds all together.
When you're one unbalanced piece of audio from losing your
This is the Podcast Therapist.
So then there's a music bed that I can go ahead and utilize, and I'm live mixing here. And so then all I do is I just live mix, and I just bring that fader down, and then I am talking over that at the same time. So that's really all I'm doing, right? So I'm just doing that, and then once I want to go into, say I want to talk about something and go into a different segment, which I have a segment called The Mixdown. I have another segment called Unnecessary Explanations. I can go in, and then I can say, okay, we're going to be talking about these things. But first, let's get into the Mixdown, and then I would just go.
Mixdown. It's time for the Mixdown. The Podcast Therapist.
And then I would just fade it down. I'll just fade it down. And this will be like a 1 minute music bed. It's not on a loop at all. I just have it as a 1 minute music bed, because then I can go ahead and adjust the faders up and down. And then when I'm ready to just go into my topic, I'm just going to go ahead and fade it down and just keep fading it down. And then I just fade it down. So then once that's done, I can stop it, and then it's ready to go. So then I can go ahead and I can talk about my topic for, let's say, 15, 20 minutes, and I might have different segments that I will be working with, right? I'll be working with different segments. You know, so maybe the Mixdown is like, hey, I'm going to break something down ahead so that, oh, what's up, Chris? Good to see you. You're the pro. You're the true pro, Chris. Like, people should be looking at you, buddy. So Chris Stone, you guys got to follow Chris Stone. He does podcasting as well. He's pretty cool at it. He's good at it. So yeah. So anyway, if I do the 15 minutes to 20 minutes of my segment about the Mixdown, maybe I'm breaking down a topic and I'm just going about and I'm talking about that topic at length, and I say, okay, whatever. I treat that as a radio segment, right? And then once I'm ready to go into a commercial break, what I do is that this fader is faded down. It's faded down, obviously, right? But I'm starting the music bed ahead of time. So I start this music bed ahead of time. It's one of the pink ones. So I'll start this one right here. And then as I'm talking, I'm fading up that music bed slowly. And I continue to fade that music bed up slowly, all right? And then as I'm fading that music bed up slowly, I keep fading it up, and I'll talk over it, and I'll do about 30 seconds. And then what I've done is I've written down on a piece of paper for my notes what I'm going to be talking about next, all right? So I've got that written down. I'm reading it off to the side, right? And then I'm like, okay, coming up next, we're going to be diving in with Chris Stone. He's going to tell us all about Amazon Live, on how you can earn affiliate income through Amazon Live. And that's all coming up next on the Podcast Therapist. At that point, what I'll do is I'll fade this up louder so that it's recorded into the mix. Let it run out for about 5 to 10 seconds. And then while that's running out, oh, and I don't have it plugged in here, but it would be right here, this fader right here. Let's see if I can plug it in. So let's just do this as an example. Let me do this real quick so I can give you a good example of what it looks like. I should have set this up beforehand. Let me see here. Where is that? Right here. And then let's just go ahead and Bluetooth this in. Where is it? Where is it? RØDECaster Pro. There we go. Okay, we are connected. Let's go back in. So again, if we're doing this music bed, I'm talking. I give my little spiel. Hey, that's what you're gonna expect when you do YouTube live video. So coming up next, we're gonna be talking with Chris Stone. He does Amazon Live live stream and tells you how to make affiliate income. So let's go. We'll be talking with him here coming up after a bit. I'll fade this up. I'll turn this up in preparation for what I'm going to fire next. I let that music kind of run. I come over here. I have my commercials set up, and then I fire this.
The Podcast Therapist.
Watching a
And then
podcast can be
I have that faded down.
You've got your equipment, a Zoom
And this is gonna run
camera,
all the way
episodes
through
recorded, but what's next for a
all those
successful
commercials.
launch? The biggest mistake
Okay.
podcasters make is
So
not having
what I'll
a
do is I'll
launch.
just typically go ahead and just let those all run through, and then you kind of work from there.
Your podcast
Commercials can be affiliate links in your podcast. You can utilize this strategy, at least in my eyes. You can utilize this strategy for future opportunities to monetize your podcast. So that's why I think it's important to do this, and the only reason why I think it's important to do it is because radio has been doing this since the dawn of time, and podcasters and podcasters mostly are doing this exact same thing. They're taking these strategies from radio and implementing them into podcasting. Chris, what are you firing from the iPad? Bringing it into RCP with Bluetooth? Yeah. So this is Bluetooth into the RØDECaster Pro. And this app right here is called Soundboard. So it's called Soundboard, and I can just load everything in to here. I don't know if I can get into it here. Let me adjust the camera. I know this is kind of strange and awkward, but you can see I've just named them all something a little bit different. So I had a friend record this, and then I recorded another one there. Ah, thanks, man. Yeah, so this is all done through Bluetooth. What I will say though is that with Bluetooth, it is delayed just a smidge. It's delayed by a half second to a second. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're firing anything from the RØDECaster Pro. Okay. Sorry, I'm over here doing this real quick. So we'll just kind of let this all run out, and then you'll see the idea of how it works. So I've run all these commercials, and then I have this 1 minute spot. Every spot that I have, everything that I'm creating here is all 1 minute. It's either 1 minute or it's going to be 30 seconds. So you don't need anything more than 30 seconds, or I'm sorry, you don't need anything more than 1 minute. You don't, but you could do 30 seconds and you could do 15 seconds, and you can build those into your strategies of when you do get sponsors. You can build those strategies in there and say like, oh, I want to do a minute, and then you give them a price, and then they go, oh, I don't like that, and be like, well, I have packages for other things, 30s, 15s, and then you can build in those packages. So those are just ways that you could do that. But you can see here. So let's pay attention to like what this is going to do, and then you'll hear what it does.
Episode to go ahead and get started. Kajabi is the perfect tool to elevate your content creation and reach more people who are passionate about your work.
Podcast Therapist. Unnecessary explanations.
All right, and so then you hear there's just a music bed that goes on right there, and this music bed only goes for about a minute because I don't need more than a minute to get my point across, to introduce someone like say Chris, and then get into my topic, right? So I don't need to do that. So that's really how I'm setting a lot of this up. So that's where you go, and then all I'm doing is I'm just fading it down, and then I go into my whole thing about, and then I start talking to Chris, and then what's on the iPad over here, it just fades out, and then it just stops, or I can stop it altogether, and then that's it. So that's really kind of all I'm doing. I'm not doing anything that's like wildly spectacular. I've just set it up in pre-production ahead of time. So that's all it is. So yeah. So that's just kind of like a real quick idea of like what I'm doing. Setting that up, I can kind of show you how I do that and how I set it up. It's pretty simple. It doesn't take a whole lot. Just like I said a little earlier, you don't need, in radio, they just say, just make it simple. You don't need to make it more complicated. Just make it simple. And if you can make it simple, it'll work. So experience. You're awesome, dude. Here, I'm going to switch around here so you can see my face. Oh, sorry about that. Let's switch around here. Okay, there we go. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that, man. So yeah, that's just kind of a quick idea of like how I'm doing it. It just takes a little bit of time to set up. And I mean, I know Chris, like that it takes time to set some of this stuff up. I know that you kill it. You crush it on yours. So, I mean, I'm learning from you. Are you kidding me? So, but yeah, I mean, guys like Chris can know how to do it their style, their way. And Chris incorporates a lot of video too. So that's someone I think you should pay attention to because Chris knows how to do it on video. And Chris, I don't know, like, what are you using as far as video? You're using Ecamm, I assume, to broadcast all this stuff out. I know you have all the graphics. I know that you have set that up like a pro. So, I mean, it looks awesome. I mean, I love your background setup. I love all of it. I love the vibe that you have in your room. I mean, everything. And I know that you've invested a lot into it. So I know that it comes in, it looks super, super awesome. So, yeah, Ecamm. So if Jermaine is still here, there you go. There's a testimonial directly for Ecamm. No, not a problem, man. Yeah, I love looking at your stuff when I'm like cruising around and looking. I pop on Amazon Live or Amazon and I see your guys' videos. It's cool, and I'll just pop in and I'll give a little look and I'll be like, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. There's no doubt about that. So, or if I see you on like Jeff's podcast, I'll be like, Chris knows what he's doing. I mean, like I can't compete. So I mean, like I have no idea. So yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. I'm probably gonna start ramping some stuff up. I know we're coming into the holidays, and it's gonna be kind of some downtime. But I really want to get back into doing a lot of this stuff. I'm much better behind the microphone than I am. Not necessarily that I'm not good at the editing portion of audio, but I'm much better at doing this live stuff and presenting and doing it like this. But doing live streams like this are always fun too. So it's a little more intimate. It's a little more, hey, I can talk to you guys, and then that's the way it works. Jeff praises your work all the time. Jeff's a complete sweetheart. Like he's such a good dude. Like he helps me out so much. And talk about a go-getter. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of Jeff. So Jeff does such a great job of getting the work done and getting it done right. And then Jeff is a complete pro too. He was the one that got me on the Stream Deck. I don't know if you were the one that got him on the Stream Deck, but he got me on the Stream Deck too. Yeah, dude, I'll totally get on the Dealcasters, man. Do I need to lose a little bit of weight though? Maybe I should exercise a little, lose some weight. No, I'm kidding. I love the lives. It's more interactive. Yeah, so I might do that. I might also record some live podcasts, like actually doing a live stream via Ecamm. So like I said, I do have some examples that I have created. So, that's just kind of where that works. So gain weight? Oh, come on. Well, I mean, I could gain weight. And then I would say that at that point, Chris, I can fully fill out my dad bod and then maybe satisfy what the internet is truly looking for, right? So just let me know, man. I mean, I'm happy to show up on there. I got to set some things up here, but I mean, I am happy to show up and just kind of be a part of things. I really want to start getting up on other podcasts and start promoting the things that I've got going on, and then inversely, right, get you on my podcast because you're a valuable resource to be on on my program, I mean, you would be a wildly valuable resource. You and Jeff alone would be wildly resourceful. So, yeah, we can talk, man. Let's talk about some stuff. I have ideas, for you if it helps you guys at Dad Podcaster. That'd be a great one, right? That'd be like a great podcast itself. And you just talk about lower back pain and why you drink buttermilk for probiotic benefits, right? And which probiotics you're taking. So we could totally do that, right? Talk about, when the next colonoscopy is going to be happening and, and what that experience was like, right? So, would be honored to chop it up. Yeah, man. Yeah. Let's keep in contact, dude. Let me see here. I don't know if you want to leave. Well, I guess I'll just get your contact info on your Amazon page and I'll reach out to you and we can kind of work from there and go from there. I think it would be really, really cool. Of course, I'd be pre-recording and you know how that goes, but I'd be pre-recording for at least me. But I'm happy to come on yours, whenever you want if you're looking for something, I just, as a note though, I do work nights. So if you happen to do a Dealcasters Live broadcast at like 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. Arizona time, I might have bags and I might have a couple extra cups of tea, and I might be a little disheveled, but I guess that's the realism. That would be the realism of it, right? So anyway, yeah, let's reach out. Let's talk, man. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and the nighttime is the right time. Oh, dude, 100%, man. Nighttime is the right time. I ain't into on that. So thank you, Mrs. Buddha. I appreciate you tuning in. It means a lot to me. And Jermaine, people who just came in and just popped on and said hi. So, all right, I'm going to split because I actually do have to exercise. I got to get some exercise in before I go into my real radio job tonight. So, and I got to fix some dinner too. So I will talk to you later, Chris. We'll keep in touch. Right? And then everyone else, I hope this helped out. And we will talk to you guys later, okay? See you guys. Bye. Well, I got to figure out how to turn this off. Let's see if I can figure it out. I think it's up here. So, all right, have a good one, guys. See ya.